Yo, YouTube, what's going on, guys? Hey, so today I'm gonna teach you guys to solder. Solder is all about patience. You can't rush it, and I prefer a gas soldering iron over an electric one. However, there are some really fancy electric guns out there, so do some research, find what's gonna work for you. This little Benzomatic works great for me. I don't solder a whole super ton, so it's perfect. Just plop a little gas in it before you run it every time, and never had a problem. So I'm gonna get set up. We gotta swap camera views, and let me show you what I'm talking about. So, like I said, I use a gas soldering iron. Nothing really fancy about it. I use just a regular tip. Yeah. You just plop her in some gas. That's it before I run it. I'm gonna use my magnetic bowl for a stand, just cause, just like that. Just cause this thing, you have to, if you use a gas one, you gotta pay attention to the vent nozzles. I've actually melted things that I've tried to solder with this thing because I didn't pay attention to what way that hole was pointed. It's got a vent, that heat's got a vent somewhere. So yeah, you just gotta pay attention to that. That's it. Okay, now I'm gonna get set up. Okay, so I've got a few items here that I'd like to discuss with you before we get going. All right, you're gonna need a soldering iron. You're gonna need rosin core solder. Don't get the rosin free or whatever it is. Make sure it's rosin core. I've never really been able to solder with the other stuff. Couple of different ways you can go about it. Now, these things work really good for cleaning your tip. You can also use a wet sponge. I use a combination of the two. This is desolderer wire or whatever. I guess they call it a wick or whatever. You can kind of flatten it out, make it a little bit bigger. But basically, if you just have too much solder, you can press this down and it'll kind of soak it up a little bit. Just like this will, same thing. And then I'm gonna show you a couple of different kinds of flux. Okay, flux, right, here's this paste. Flux comes in different kinds, shapes, sizes, goops, goos, oils, whatever you wanna call it, right? Yeah. Very, very important to use flux when you solder. Don't even try to solder without it. Like, if you don't have it, then go buy it before you even attempt to solder. Additional tools that you can have, things like helping hands, magnifying glasses, and, jigs to kind of hold your wires, in place and all of that. That's great. But anyway, moving forward. Get rid of this because I don't own any batteries that have that connector. Thank God I can say that. Right? Now, when you're doing this, when you are cutting your wire, trimming it back, there's no right or wrong way to do this. Just don't take very much off. You want to cut very, very small. I always like to kind of twist it up. Once again, not necessary. But with your helping hand, it holds it for you. Right? Let me get that a little more centered for you guys. There we go. But I like to just, give her a little more wire. But I like to just barely get it. Just dab it on there. Just so there's a little bit, you guys can kind of see it on there. Right, fire up my, see, you can hear the difference when it's going. And then I just lock it. All right, you'll see it start to get red. Yeah, okay, it's in that hole. All right, see her getting red. She's starting to work. Now, before I solder or even try to solder, right? Well, so this is what I do to kind of test to see if my iron's hot enough, is I just wait for it to start to melt it. but I don't use it. Right? Okay, so it's starting to melt. I will clean the tip. Right? I will clean it with water, you know, and, you know, you can, you know, stuff it in your little tip cleaner there, right? And then you immediately want to re-solder it, or, you know, re-tin it. Add solder to it. You always want to make sure your iron is tinned at all times, right? So put a fresh drop of solder. I like to blow so the smoke doesn't get in my face. But where it hits on the, you know, the iron there, let it boil down and then add it to the wire, not the iron. See that? Don't hit the iron, hit the wire. All right, when it's hot enough, it'll absolutely absorb it just like that. See how that's nice and shiny? When you're done, stuff her in there and clean that stuff off. See that? Okay, she's cleaned off. I'm gonna shut my iron off and I'm gonna instantly re-tin it. And I'm gonna let it cool just like that every single time. And that's super important for longevity of the tip of your soldering iron. If you do not keep it tinned, the air or whatever, it'll oxidize it and it'll actually start eating your tip. Your tip will start dissolving over time. It's you know, like I said, I'm not a professional, so I'm not sure what the proper names and all that stuff is, but it does. It deteriorates your tip over time. But if you keep it tinned, it seems to make them last a little longer. Not that, you know, it's an issue, because it's definitely not. They last forever. All right. All right. Now, we're going to do the same thing with this one, right? Get a little bit of the paste. And get a little bit on there. Fire up the knife. She running? Yeah, she's running. All right, now that she's heated up, it's only going to take a microsecond, but I'm going to do the exact same thing again. Right? Now I'm going to wait. Alright, she took it, so I'm gonna clean her off, dab her a few more times, re-tin, and melt. Oops, didn't get enough on there. See how the tinning makes all the difference? Sorry, lots of smoke, guys. Okay. Don't be afraid to use solder. This stuff, man, just burn it. Man, just drive it right into that hot wire. Don't even stress it. Okay, so this wire, my connector piece, came pre-tinned. I got lucky on these ones, and I love it when it's like that too. Makes it super, super easy. So now all I need to do is just line it up. Right? So yeah, that's not very well protected. I just don't like the teeth on that thing, man. They're biting into the cable. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of plastic around it just to keep it a little safer. Right? Okay. I like to rest it where they touch, where they kind of force each other to touch. I just, you know, just have never got away from it, from these gas ones. Just really like them. So I tin it, clean it, re-tin it, right? And then let's get them melted. We can add more. And then we just let it cool. Right? I'm gonna just leave this thing rolling. Let me show you guys. Look at how perfect. See, it's like they were welded together. I know this camera doesn't do close-ups very good, but I mean, those are straight welded beautifully. If you can see how it's real shiny, you know, solder will dull or it'll stay shiny. If it's real shiny like that, it's a perfect solder. Can't solder it any better. Let's do it one more time. Like I said, I'm gonna wrap it up with just a little bit of plastic just so it don't get chewed up. I don't want the wire to get broke. All right. Hold them together. All right, let's clean the tip. Every single time you want to start with a fresh tip. Every time. I can't stress that enough. How important that is. Bam. Right, clean the tip off. Tin it back up and let it cool down. Alright guys, look at how beautiful. Slide that shrink tube over it. Alright, hit her with the heat gun. Just like that, boys. It's done.